So on Saturday, Bernie Sanders won his 7th state in a row over Hillary Clinton. He won Wyoming by 12 points. But something was up with the delegates, and Morning Joe kind of dug into it.
He's won 8 out of 9.
Yep.
But he's losing.
And look, he wins by 12 points. I tell you, I would not do well as a Democratic politician. He wins by 12 points. He may not even pick up a single delegate.
Yeah.
It's 7-6 now, with a remaining delegate to be decided later. I'm sorry. That's a crushing victory. We've been talking about rigged systems. We're putting up right now a graphic. Bernie Sanders wins 56 to 44% in Wyoming. The delegates rewarded. Hillary Clinton 11, Bernie Sanders 7. Why does the Democratic Party even have voting booths?
No, why?
This system is so rigged.
But we always talk about voter turnout and how important it is to do your duty as a citizen. There's absolutely no reason any of those people voted in any of those states,
I mean,
right?
What's the justification?
Please,
for that?
someone tell me.
These are the rules.
No, that's
Yeah,
not a good
I
answer.
understand,
Tell me
but
why those
rigged.
people needed to go vote, because their votes
Depends
don't
on where
matter.
you turned out. It's not rigged.
Do their votes matter?
So some great points by Mika Brzezinski and Joe Scarborough there. And then just discussing how the system is rigged, how Bernie Sanders wins by 12 points, yet loses the delegate race to Hillary Clinton through superdelegates. But even before, so in a previous video, I discussed what superdelegates are and how they can change before the nomination. I'll link to that somewhere in this YouTube video. But even before the superdelegates, Bernie Sanders, so Joe Scarborough there says Bernie Sanders has one pledged delegate over Hillary Clinton. When I checked online, it showed me they were tied. So either he only has one more pledged delegate than Hillary Clinton after winning by 12 points, or they're tied in pledged delegates, which doesn't include superdelegates. So how do you tie with pledged delegates after winning by 12 points? It doesn't make any sense. It's completely undemocratic. The people spoke. They chose in Wyoming, they preferred Bernie Sanders. Yet when it comes to delegates, what you need to actually get the nomination, he either gets one above or likely ties Hillary Clinton in pledged delegates, and then loses to her when you include superdelegates. Superdelegates being the people who are already in Washington, in the establishment, in Congress, who basically have more of a vote, more of a say than regular people do. And that's why she comes out ahead of Bernie Sanders in those numbers, which is just absolutely ridiculous. And then Mark Halperin with the great quote, "It's not rigged, these are the rules." Does Mark Halperin understand what rigged means? The rules are rigged. That's the problem. It's not this is not rigged, those are the rules. That's why it's rigged. Those are the rules. Those shouldn't be the rules. So I decided to look into Mark Halperin because I was just curious who this guy is. I see this guy on TV a lot in Morning Joe. He's been on other segments as well, other channels as well. But I didn't know who this guy was. So I just wanted to look at him and see what his peers thought about him. So first, let's just put up this quick Wikipedia explanation of who Mark Halperin is. Mark Evan Halperin is the senior political analyst for Time Magazine, MSNBC, and Bloomberg News. He's the co-author of Game Change and Double Down, Game Change 2012. So I did some research about Mark Halperin, and I wanted to see what his peers thought about him. So this is what other people in political media think about Mark Halperin. Marcos Melissus says, Mark Halperin's a useless piece of shit who is always wrong about everything, has no political acumen, and has been engaged in a long-running jihad against the truth. Duncan Black says that Halperin sucks ass and is proud of the fact that Matt Drudge rules the world. Gawker's new boss, Alex Perrine, says Halperin is the world's laziest dispenser of conventional wisdom and the worst hack in America. Also, he's so bad at what he does that the most offensive thing about the existence of Mark Halperin is that he's the worst possible version of himself. Esquire's Charles Pierce says Halperin is one of the worst two things that have happened to American political journalism in the past 30 years. Because he long ago invented the kind of Beltway insider railbird bullshit that passes today for analysis. Heather Digby Parton says that Halperin is the quintessential villager, a man who exhales conventional wisdom the way that the rest of us exhale carbon dioxide. And lastly, Ed Kilgore is especially brutal on the subject, saying, Mark Halperin is capable of writing graph after graph and page after page of palpable nonsense, expressing not only an indifference to, but an active defiance of any objective evidence that transcends the insider information he purveys. So those are some scathing reports about Mark Halperin from his peers in the press. It really makes you wonder why this guy has such a voice on television, especially on Morning Joe, where, I mean, they have differing voices on Morning Joe. Joe Scarborough he's actually a Republican, but he's a Republican in the sense where he's more of a 90s Republican, a Republican when Republicans actually weren't batshit crazy. I would almost consider him a moderate in many senses when I actually watch him and hear what he has to say. He doesn't really offend establishment like the majority of Republicans existing still do. There's many different Republicans that exist, but when it comes to people in his position, people of establishment, it's generally those that are still Republican are ones that are defending the establishment. Or if they're not the establishment, then they're very religious, is another big sector of Republicans. But Joe Scarborough is really not either of those things, and he's taken liberal positions before. He's mostly a moderate for the most part, but he talks complete sense here. This is the Democratic Party, who supposed to be for truth and facts and doing what's right and speaking for the will of the people. And here is an election, here is a primary race or a caucus in Wyoming that Bernie Sanders wins by 12 points over Hillary Clinton, but the establishment prefers Hillary Clinton. So somehow she makes up the pledge delegates by only either losing by 1 or tying with Bernie Sanders, even though she lost by 12 points, and then actually exceeding Bernie Sanders in delegates when you include superdelegates, people who are part of the establishment, putting their delegate in favor of her. So it really is a rigged system. And for Mark Halperin to say otherwise, he doesn't know what the fuck he's talking about.